Spiritual cosmologies acknowledge the existence of higher dimensions beyond our physical or material world. They also acknowledge that we can ascend or descend them both individually and collectively. We shall explore a few such cosmologies, delve into how we can ascend through them, and the present state of the world, which some consider to be in a transitionary phase to the fifth dimension, 5D. We shall see how true this is, what it means to be present in the world at this time of transformation and in 5D, and when to expect it. The second part considers how we can best prepare for the ascension, assuming that it is indeed impending in the near future. Origins of the concept of 5D ascension. Those who describe the next higher dimension as 5D adopt the term introduced into the New Age community based on teachings of the Theosophists, particularly Helena Blavatsky, 1831 to 1891, who borrowed heavily from Hindu teachings and Christian writers such as Helena Runau. The latter identified herself as a messenger for the Great White Brotherhood in a book titled Journeys into the Fifth Dimension in 1971. The Great White Brotherhood comprises ascended masters who are said to have been guiding humanity's development and include Jesus Christ as the Maitreya in their hierarchy. Another key figure, Saint Germain, is mentioned further. The early conceptions of 3D to 5D ascension were thus grounded in the Theosophical movement and Christianity. 5D ascension is a reference to the biblical concept and prediction of the rapture and is analogous to the ascension of Jesus Christ. As stated in 1 Corinthians 15:51-53, it will involve the dead being raised, which is now widely interpreted as the Great Awakening. 5D ascension was also popularized by Edgar Cayce, 1877 to 1945. He claimed to have been in contact with the Arcturians and that they were assisting humanity in raising their vibrations to the fifth density by eliminating negative influences such as fear and anger. What it means to be in 5D. More generally, the idea underlying 5D ascension is achieving 5D consciousness, which is a level of awareness pertaining to a higher dimension or realm of existence that transcends our present physical limits. The higher the dimension, the more expansive our awareness becomes. The 5D world is in a higher state of vibration and set of frequencies as compared to the present 3D reality. It is a significant shift and leap forward in human consciousness. The reader may ask, what about the 4D? The 4D in this scheme is the astral plane. Like the 5D, the 4D is also a non-physical dimension, but it is, in the writer's understanding, mistakenly identified exclusively with time, whereas the 5D is wrongly claimed to be the realm beyond space-time. The 4D is skipped because it is the dream dimension above but closely connected to the 3D, whereas the 5D is the next complete energetic layer above the 3D realm. Dimension awareness description. 3D, physical plane. Iron Age. Physical only, the plane of dense and gross matter, also known as the Iron Age. Emphasis on the ego, self, or individuality, guided by and stuck in religious dogma. Simplistic and separation-based, dualistic view of reality. Predominance of the solar plexus chakra and negative emotions, such as fear and anger. 4D, astral plane. Emotional, we come into the spiritual. The astral plane of unpleasant psychic entities and hideous thought forms. More harmonious feelings and thoughts. Greater concern for others. 5D, etheric plane. Relatively more spiritual. More open heart and throat chakras and expanded consciousness. Humanitarian and compassionate outlook. Greater feelings of love, joy, and unity. The Sufi understanding of realms clarifies, firstly, that we are still bound by time in higher dimensions, but it is non-serial or non-linear time, whereas we are subject to or restrained by linear time in the densest material world. Put simply, we are less constrained by time and space the higher we ascend. Secondly, it is not a separate world but a dimension that already exists intertwined within the present, but on a higher vibratory level of consciousness with relatively more light, love, compassion, positivity, and spirituality. So, it will still be a physical realm but a more rarefied and subtler one. Thirdly, it should not be confused with the heaven or paradise mentioned in the Abrahamic scriptures, as they are different levels of existence, wujud, altogether and yet higher realms. Instead, it may be seen as a new earth, Holy Bible, Revelation 21. a more harmonious mindset or pattern of thinking aligned with the divine realms.
Shop now. Unique products. Stress-free holidays with special prices. Shop now at godsyou.com.
Also, importantly, ascending to 5D is not an end goal because there are even higher dimensions. See our article on God's plan for his creation. In Quranic cosmology, the densest realm in which humanity is presently confined is the phenomenal realm or perceptible realm, as in the realm cognizable by our physical senses and comprising the four basic elements: earth, water, air, and fire. The next subtler realm in the unseen, Gabe, is the angelic realm, where humanity gains dominance over their basic nature to have more angelic qualities, and which incorporates more of the ether. Notably, Alam simultaneously means a realm and a state of being. This is apt because the higher realms are actually higher or more refined mental and spiritual states with expanded awareness rather than completely separate or independent worlds. As Matthias de Stefano explained, the dimensions are not different physical locations, so it's not about going someplace. Rather, it's about expanding one's perspective from where you are. Ascension to a higher dimension can be attained either individually or collectively, and in this video, we are describing a collective ascension of humanity to a higher level of consciousness. However, the collective 5D ascension of humanity as a whole depends on having a sufficient number of spiritually ascended individuals. According to the Holy Bible, this number is 144,000, Revelation 7 verse 1. Whatever the exact number may be, it is a critical mass required to elevate the rest of humanity. In a more spiritual world, we can expect more subtleness, sensitivity, and refinement in our perceptions and life experiences, as well as great attunement to and contact with higher beings. In part 2 of this topic, we will focus on more such signs and what we as individuals must do to help humanity ascend to the 5D level of collective consciousness. Timing of the 5D ascension. As to when the 5D ascension will occur collectively for humanity on Earth, there appears to be a consensus that we are very close to it, although pinpointing the exact moment is unclear. However, while the spiritually inclined at least acknowledge a spiritual awakening taking place and a more spiritual age ahead, there are religious dogmatists who believe instead in an emerging end-of-the-world scenario. This polarization reflects the 3D and 5D ways of thinking and the trapped feelings of the former, who fail to see a way forward except through transhumanism, more sophisticated materialism, and continued enslavement of humanity. The Hopis believe we are living in the final days of the fourth world and that in the fifth, after a global cataclysm, human beings will have greater and higher powers. Fifth here does not refer to the fifth dimension but a fifth cycle that was due to end in 2012. In Greg Braden's 2010 interpretation, there is a buffer or grace period of 18 years beyond the year 2012, within which what we expected in 2012 will occur, which is the ending of one and the beginning of a new cycle. This makes us close at the time of writing to the end of this grace period, ending in 2030. Incidentally, this is also the year being touted by the Cabal as a significant turning point in human history. There is, in a sense, a countdown to this year. However, the WEF's World Economic Forum Great Reset plan is a dystopian antithesis to the utopian fifth dimension and global spiritual awakening. Whether they are two contrasting perspectives of the same eventual outcome or competing alternative visions or possible scenarios remains to be seen. According to QAnon followers, the Great Awakening will be preceded by a storm in which society will be polarized, and the COVID-19 pandemic, 2019 to 2023, was specifically engineered to prevent this awakening and the 5D ascension. The upcoming spiritual age is also described as the Age of Aquarius. Being a mental sign, it is an age of knowledge, wisdom, and a great spiritual awakening and transformation. If we consider this as marked by Pluto entering Aquarius, Pluto will settle for a prolonged period in this sign from November 19, 2024, until March 8, 2043. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius for this long was between 1778 to 1798, when the Age of Revolution began, and before that, in 1532 to 1553, which saw the Protestant Reformation and came after the fall of Rome. It may be noted that Count Saint-Germain, 1710 to 1784, an ascended master acknowledged by theosophists, who was able to teleport, levitate, and walked through walls and helped realize the previous age of Aquarius is the same figure central to the Christian I Am movement behind the promotion of the idea of 5D ascension in the form of the present New Age movements. People of every spiritual tradition are eagerly awaiting this ascension to a higher way of living, even if they don't call it an ascension into the fifth dimension. For example, the Hindus are anticipating the Dwapara Yuga around now. The ancient Greeks described it as a Bronze Age, which last occurred between 3300 BCE and 1100 BCE. It was marked by technological revolutions, the use of writing and metals, and living in harmony with nature. Considering that the concept of 5D ascension specifically has been around for more than a century, and it has always been thought that it is taking place or happening soon, we should not be overly concerned about the timing. It is sufficient to observe that the world is becoming increasingly more spiritual than before, and to consider our role in facilitating the ascension. Ascending to the fifth dimension, Part 2. Ascending to the fifth dimension, 5D, is a process of raising your energetic vibrations and, thereby, elevating your feelings and thoughts to a whole new level that is significantly different and more refined compared to the third dimension of reality. It involves abandoning the old, egoistic, individualistic, separation-based, materialistic, and greed-based ways of thinking and being and reconnecting to a more expansive range of consciousness. By studying the lives of prophets, saints, and other spiritual masters and enlightened individuals, we can see that they all underwent a phase of spiritual training in their early life before they were able to expand their consciousness and become spiritually advanced and ascended. In so doing, they all contributed to the global spiritual upliftment. The role of spirituality, as opposed to materiality, clearly becomes far more central and crucial in one's life. That's because we are essentially spiritual beings, so spiritual advancement enables us to know our true nature more deeply, which includes our connections with others and alignment with the rest of the universe. Besides acquiring knowledge on spirituality, key spiritual practices that aid in spiritual development include meditation, breathwork, and yoga. In first part of this video, we looked at what it means to be in 5D in depth, the origins of the concept, and considered when it might occur for humanity collectively. Whether we call it 5D ascension or something else, one thing that is certain is that some signs are present. In this second part, we focus on our role as individuals aspiring to develop ourselves spiritually, how we can achieve an individual ascension, and what we can do to contribute to the global ascension to the fifth dimension. We will look at these signs suggesting a spiritual ascension is taking place and what approach we should take to hasten the ascension. Signs of spiritual ascension. Signs of a global 5D ascension include the collapse of old structures, including governments, and basically anything that binds us to the old constrained ways of thinking and living, as well as less egoism and greed-based social problems. With respect to our energy centers or chakras, it is about living with a more opened heart chakra and being naturally more intuitive. More obvious signs are the increasing inclination towards spirituality among the public at large and greater unity, peace, and harmony in the world overall. There is growing interest in spirituality, and scientific and technological developments support this growth. For example, the internet has made it easier to get access to spiritual knowledge, and quantum physics is helping scientifically support spiritual concepts. This indicates that globally, we are definitely expanding our knowledge and awareness of spirituality. In reality, humanity has always been evolving spiritually, and we have been ascending continually. However, we may be reaching a point soon when we can say that collectively, we have ascended to a higher level of consciousness that some call 5D. Here are some more signs that we may notice individually during our personal spiritual development. Physiological changes. A transition period to a higher dimension is often accompanied by physiological symptoms and discomfort, such as ringing in the ears, fatigue, headaches, body aches, and gastrointestinal disorders. Some spiritual practitioners associate the 5D with discarding the carbon-based and gaining a crystalline body. Psychological changes. Emotions are usually higher than normal during a transition period. People usually feel either a spate of highs or drained, or both at times. Feelings of disorientation and depression also tend to occur. A detachment. You feel disinterested, detached, and disconnected from the material world of 3D reality as you become more inclined to the higher reality. Synchronicities. The truth that nothing is coincidental becomes more apparent at the 5D level. In fact, synchronicities become more frequent due to the greater alignment and harmony with nature, and the universe working in your favor instead of you fighting against the flow. Inner calm and peace. The energetic changes to a higher dimension make one feel more calm and peace inwardly and outwardly relative to the lower dimension. This is also due to greater alignment and harmony with nature. Vivid dreams. Dreams become more vivid or lucid and may help shape your new perspective on life and reality. Dreams can become a useful aid in elevating your consciousness. A greater sensitivity. The senses become sharper and more enhanced, enabling the person to sense the energies of other people, animals, and the natural world around them, including so-called inanimate objects. A heightened intuition. Greater alignment with the universe facilitates heightened intuition, allowing you to gain extrasensory information and communicate telepathically. Expanded awareness. Expanded consciousness is synonymous with expanded awareness. It means perceiving and knowing more than was previously possible. Higher dimensional realities are always present as overlays on the 3D world, but we only become aware of them while advancing ourselves spiritually. Challenges and approach to 5D ascension. The above signs of 5D ascension can also be seen as challenges to overcome. There are physiological and psychological challenges, but also more profound changes in thinking patterns and beliefs. It is not uncommon for some people to lose their minds or be seen as schizophrenic if they lack a sufficient grounding in spiritual knowledge and receptivity to higher frequencies. The key to gaining clarity into the unseen, expanding awareness, and advancing spiritually into higher dimensions, as highlighted by Rumi, is to live deeper in one's heart. The mirror gets clearer and clearer as you live deeper in your heart. Rumi. See through the eyes of compassion, listen with the ears of tolerance, and speak with the language of love. Rumi. Living deeper in one's heart or heart-centered living means relying more on the heart than the mind by exhibiting empathy, compassion, and unconditional love. Naturally, this way of living is also associated with the following, which all help to ascend to a higher dimension than the 3D reality. A non-dualistic thinking. Simple, binary thought that characterizes 3D thinking fails to comprehend true realities. There are many gray shades of truth in between the black and white extremes that better reflect the actual situation or circumstances. Recognizing these possibilities is one way to overcome dualistic thinking. A oneness with nature. Ascending 3D requires connecting and living in harmony with nature. This involves appreciating that we are not separate from but an integral part of nature itself. It ultimately develops our unity consciousness, which is feeling at one with everything. A creativity. Creative pursuits involving imagination and exploration make one naturally connect deeply with higher states, perspectives, and creative possibilities. A gratitude. Gratitude is a powerful way to attract positivity into one's life and spread peace. It also helps us appreciate our interdependency and interconnectedness and grow spiritually. Religions stress thanking to express gratitude because of its immense benefits, not only for good things received, but also during adversities, such as Daniel's Thanksgiving, Daniel 2 verses 20-23. Gratitude opens our spiritual eyes. In short, ascending to a higher dimension of consciousness is a process of becoming heart-centered beings, expressing empathy and compassion, appreciating our connections and unity with others and everything around us, and self-mastery. As highlighted in part 1 of this video, the individual ascensions of consciousness away from the dense 3D level of reality go towards our collective ascension and upliftment of humanity as a whole. Our inner work as individuals spreads outwardly in its impact. For instance, our improved relationships with others through expressing compassion spreads positivity and encourages others to do the same. With a sufficient number of people growing spiritually and expanding their consciousness, our collective consciousness as humanity also ascends to a higher level of reality.
Shop now at GodsU.com.